All right, business writing students, time to come to the conclusion of the cover letter videos. Hopefully this is the last little bit. The idea of a conclusion is similar across the board. It's an ending, right? It's a way to close out what's been said already. And I think for an essay, I see a lot of students struggle with conclusions, but for a cover letter, it shouldn't be too bad. It should be pretty manageable. And there are a couple reasons I say that, and we'll kind of dive in here in a bit. But before we get to that point, let's just talk about how you end something effectively, right? The best way to think about a conclusion, in my opinion, is as though it's the last word or the last thought that you're going to get in on your topic or at the end of your letter. And it's very likely the main thing that somebody's going to remember, right? Most people remember the last thing they heard, not necessarily something in the middle. So we want to make sure that we're highlighting things and that we're really coming to a satisfactory conclusion. So some things to remember, right? If somebody is reading your conclusion, they've probably read the whole thing. So in that regard, we kind of owe it to our reader a little bit to make sure that it has a nice conclusion. And it's, again, busy people, blah, blah, blah. If they've read all the way to the end, you're probably in a pretty good shape, right? They looked at your resume, they read your cover letter. So something that I would do here is recap your experience if necessary. Hey, my experience as a cat herder shows that I am effective at wrangling cats, whatever it is. Explain why you think you would be a good fit. Their company, your experience, they should match, right? Then it's good to thank the reader for their time and consideration. You really don't have to go overboard on this. It doesn't have to be, a lengthy, thank you. You don't have to send them puppies or kittens or roses or anything like that. Just a simple thank you. Thank you for your time is usually good. I also like to end by thanking them for their consideration. You don't have the job yet, right? We still have to have an interview probably. So all we're doing is saying, hey, I look forward to talking to you, right? And that's what leads us into number 5, which is end with kind of an invitation for further contact, which is to say, hey, I look forward to talking to you. If you have any questions, send me an email or feel free to call me or whatnot. That shows not only that you are, willing to ask questions, but it will have the feeling of a little bit more like starting a conversation, which is hopefully what your resume and cover letter are doing. They're starting the conversation that's going to continue into the interview and hopefully into a job. So much like we did with the previous videos, let's look at a couple examples here. So these are from different letters than any of the ones we've looked at before, different content, and we'll kind of just talk through these. And as we look at them, you should be able to get the gist of what the whole cover letter was like from just the conclusion. So here's the first conclusion. I would make an outstanding addition to your engineering team. I'm committed to not only contributing in every way that I can, but also using this internship as a valuable learning opportunity. Please reach out to me via phone or via email if you have any questions about my qualifications. I'd love to learn more about this opportunity, and I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, etc. Pretty good, right? We have the fact that this person wants to contribute in every way that they can, that it's an internship, that's a valuable learning opportunity, and they've kind of opened the door again to, hey, get in touch with me. And I like this last line. I want to hear more about the opportunity. I really look forward to hearing from you. That's a good way to end, right? That speaks to that enthusiasm, which has been in previous videos, where we want to keep that level of enthusiasm all the way through. You don't want to sound boring or sort of blasé about the experience. You want to sound excited. It's an interesting job. That's why you're applying for it. The only thing, because I got to find something, right, that's just kind of the way I am, is the first sentence I don't think is particularly strong, because the person here is making a judgment about their ability, not sort of allowing the reader to make that judgment. So I would probably even just get rid of that first sentence and start with a next sentence. And I would also suggest that the student point out something that they've mentioned in the letter above that shows that they have a track record of contributing in every way. Is it that, hey, even though I was a manager at this restaurant, I still would take out the trash if the trash needed to be taken out. I would still, polish silverware. The ability to show, again, versus tell. Hey, it's very easy, in other words, for somebody to say, I'm willing to do whatever I can. Where have they shown that in the past, right? Let's look at one more here. A different conclusion, different letter. Thank you for reviewing my application. I'm available at your convenience for a meeting, and I encourage you to contact me with any questions you have. I hope to speak with you soon. Very short. Now, again, as seems to be the pattern in these videos, the second example is usually not the stronger of the two, and that's the case here too. I like that they are opening the door to further conversation and that they want to speak to the reader again soon. However, this seems a little bit cut and paste. There's nothing unique to this conclusion that highlights what came before, right? So again, if I'm the hiring manager and I've read all the way to the end, this is a little bit of a letdown, right? Because I'm not reminded of that person's expertise. I'm not reminded of how passionate or enthusiastic they are about the job. There's nothing here that tells me they're excited about the job, which if we look at the previous conclusion, that person was, they even started with that line of, I would make an outstanding addition, which although I don't like it as much, that does show enthusiasm and passion. Now, one last thing before we kind of conclude conclusions is you'll note that this one ends best and the previous one ends sincerely. It's entirely up to you, just like an email, how you sign off. I tend to use regards or with regards or warm regards, depending on the situation. That's me. That's what I prefer. I think sincerely is fine. I would probably avoid best, though, even though it's very similar, right? Best wishes or something like that. It seems a little bit too informal to my taste. Similarly, using something like cheers or talk to you later, whatever it is, I would avoid. So, stick with something like sincerely and you'll be just fine. So a couple last things here. According to Forbes, right, the goal of the cover letter isn't just to show you're qualified. It's to make the case that you're more qualified than all the other applicants. You want to make clear what distinguishes you so the hiring manager can see why you're worth following up with to learn more. And again, you want to be memorable. You want to stand out. Now, this is especially true, I think, in the conclusion, which is, again, your last chance to say something. This is not different from the conclusion of an essay or the conclusion of an email, right? We learned with emails that your call to action, your action item, what you want to happen should be at the end of your email. Here, we want to make sure that the action that the reader takes is to follow up, to call us, to email us, to set up that interview, right? And with an essay, just food for thought, an essay should end with some sort of strong push, right? You've spent the whole time convincing somebody that you are correct, and now is the time that you drive that point home. A lot of the time in things like English 101 and English 102, I tell students to think of the conclusion as sort of the closing argument of a court case, right? We want to make sure that all the dots are connected for our reader. All right, so last slide. So some general reminders Number one, keep it clear and concise, right? Short, concise, consistent paragraphs. So what do I mean by that? Try to keep your paragraphs relatively similar in length. You don't want to have a really long paragraph and a really short paragraph and a really long paragraph. Try and keep them all roughly the same, and that may take some tinkering, but you can do it for sure. Keep clear and effective sentences, right? So that, we'll go into a little bit more here, but cutting out unnecessary words, all of those things that we sort of talked about with emails and even before emails. Aim for 1 page or less, so about 3 or 4 paragraphs. Again, most people will tell you that if your cover letter is more than a page, they're probably not going to read that second page. Keep the tone and voice formal. Again, this is a formal setting, a professional setting, and you are conveying yourself as a professional within this setting. Avoid jargon, cliches, and slang. So again, that should go with tone and voice. Avoid bragging or embellishing. It's good to be confident. It's not good to be cocky, right? So there is a fine line there. Remember, it's about the job and the position as much as it's about you, right? We're looking at that match, that connection between the two. And if your cover letter is only about you and it's not clear how your experience connects to the job or the position, then it's going to start to seem a little bit formulaic. Again, match the style, so the font, the layout, the colors, things like that to your resume. That just creates a nice visual consistency so that your reader, that hiring manager goes, these two belong together. And then lastly, and this goes for all writing, and at least in my opinion, if it's a text message or an email or an essay, proofread again, and then proofread some more, right? Run Grammarly or a grammar check of some sort. Have a friend read it. Take it to the writing studio here on campus. Put it aside and read it again later. This is a document that you want to take time on because it's going to be key in many ways to maybe attaining that interview. They might skim that is, a hiring manager might skim your resume. That might pique their interest, and then they're going to read your cover letter. But if there are errors, spelling, grammar, mechanics, whatever it is, that's going to be probably a deal breaker. So there you go. We have concluded conclusions. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, jokes, memes, or recipes, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to you all later.